Okay. So have you ever noticed how kids, like the kids in your life,
Yeah.
sometimes they kind of act like little mirrors. They reflect back these parts of ourselves that maybe we don't even realize are there.
Mm.
And today we're going to explore that whole idea through through the lens of Buddhist philosophy. And trust me, this is going to get really fascinating.
Yeah, it really is. It's incredible, how children are almost like these little emotional barometers. They really pick up on our moods, on our energy, even when we try our best to kind of, hide them away. It's like they have this radar almost for sensing what's happening beneath the
Get it
surface.
right. Like I remember one time, my son, he had this epic meltdown, and it was right when I was about to head into this big presentation, and it was almost like he was mirroring my own anxiety. Even though I was trying so hard to just stay calm and collected for him.
That's a perfect example of how children, in their own way, can kind of nudge us toward being more mindful. In Buddhist thought, mindfulness is all about being present with what is, without judgment. And sometimes it takes those little, those mini me meltdowns to make us realize, like, whoa, wait a minute, maybe I'm not as zen as I thought I was.
So it's like they're like these tiny gurus. They're reminding us to pay attention not just to what they need, but to our own like internal state.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty profound when you think about it that way.
It really is, and the sources that you shared really delve into how this whole mirroring thing goes beyond just emotions. Kids also pick up on our behaviors, the way we react to stress, the way we treat other people. Even our little habits and quirks.
Okay, that's a little unnerving, to be honest. I mean, does this mean we're doomed to pass on all our bad habits? Like if I tend to get impatient in traffic, is my kid destined for road rage?
Not necessarily, and this is where the concept of karma comes in. Now, karma, it's not about, some kind of cosmic scorecard or some predetermined fate. In Buddhism, karma is about understanding that our actions have consequences, right? And those consequences, they kind of create these patterns, and those patterns, they can continue, but they can also be broken.
Okay, so how does this apply to parenting? I'm trying to like wrap my head around how this whole karma thing plays out in those everyday moments with our kids.
Okay, let's say your child is having a tantrum,
Right.
right? And it's because you said no to candy before dinner. Now, if your automatic response is to kind of get frustrated and yell, that's kind of feeding into a pattern of anger. But if you can take a deep breath, acknowledge their feelings and calmly explain your reasoning,
Yeah.
you're showing them a different way to handle those big emotions.
So it's about making a choice, a conscious choice to have a different action, a different response. And it's not just for our own peace of mind. It's because it's actually teaching our kids a different way of being in the world.
Exactly. Every interaction, every moment, it becomes this opportunity to shift those karmic patterns, those habitual ways of reacting. And that is incredibly powerful because you're not just changing your own behavior, you're potentially breaking a cycle that might have been passed down for generations.
Wow, that's a lot of pressure. But also it's kind of inspiring too. It's like we have this chance to rewrite the script, not just for ourselves, but for our kids and maybe even future generations.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And what's amazing is that children are incredibly receptive to these shifts. They're
Yeah.
they're constantly learning and adapting, and they're watching us closely.
So even small changes can make a big difference, like choosing patience over snapping at them, or taking a moment to connect instead of just reaching for my phone.
Right. Absolutely. Those seemingly small moments can create ripples that extend far beyond that single interaction.
Okay, this is making me rethink my whole approach to parenting. It's not just about rules and discipline. It's about modeling the kind of person I want my child to become.
And that's a wonderful realization because in a way we're all works in progress, right? We're learning and growing alongside our children.
Yeah. When I think about how much I've learned from my own kids, it's kind of mind-blowing. They've taught me so much about patience, about resilience, and the simple joy of just being present in the moment.
And that brings us to another really fascinating aspect of this whole mirroring dynamic. Children, they just have this incredible knack for being present, for finding joy in the simplest things. It's like they haven't learned to get caught up in all the mental clutter that we adults tend to carry around with us.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was just watching my daughter the other day, and she's completely engrossed in building this tower,
Yeah.
out of blocks, and it was like, No phone, no screens, no worries about what's for dinner or what's happening tomorrow. It was just pure, like, focused joy in that moment.
And that's such a powerful lesson for us, isn't it? In Buddhist teachings, this state of being present, it's often referred to as mindfulness, and it's about cultivating an awareness of the present moment without judgment, without getting swept away by thoughts of the past or anxieties about the future.
One of the sources I shared, it talks about how in Buddhism, clinging to those thoughts and worries, it's actually seen as a major source of suffering. And I'm starting to see how true that is. Like when I'm caught up in my to-do list or stressing about work, I'm not really experiencing the richness of life as it unfolds.
Yeah, that's a key insight. And children, in their natural state of being, they remind us that it's possible to kind of step out of those mental loops and just reconnect with that simple joy of being. They show us that we don't need like elaborate plans or fancy gadgets to experience happiness. It's available to us right here, right now, in the most ordinary moments.
Yeah, it's like they're holding up a mirror to our own, like, busyness, our own obsession with doing instead of just being.
Precisely. And it's not about abandoning responsibility, or becoming passive. It's about finding a balance, about making space for those moments of presence, for appreciating the beauty in the everyday.
So how do we learn from them? How do we cultivate that childlike ability to be present in a world that's constantly demanding our attention?
Well, one simple practice is to just start noticing those moments when your child is fully engaged in something, whether it's, playing, drawing, or simply observing a bug on a leaf.
Thank you.
Just take a moment to pause, to breathe, to simply observe their state of being, and just ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I bring a little more of this presence into my own life?
That's a great suggestion. It's like turning those everyday moments into mini meditation sessions.
Exactly. And as you practice this, you might find that you start to notice more of those moments in your own life, those moments when you can kind of drop the mental chatter and just be, maybe it's while you're washing the dishes or taking a walk or listening to music.
It's interesting that the source material also talks about how as adults we tend to put on these masks. We're trying to present a certain image to the world, but children, they don't play that game. They're just so refreshingly authentic.
Yeah.
They just express their emotions freely and without holding back.
That's such an important point, and it ties in beautifully with the Buddhist concept of non-attachment. Now non-attachment, it doesn't mean we become indifferent or detached from life. It's about letting go of the need to control how other people perceive us, the need to always be right, the need to be perfect.
And children, they just embody that so effortlessly. They don't care about social status or projecting a certain image. They're just being themselves, fully and authentically.
Exactly. And in their unfiltered way, they're reminding us that true freedom comes from embracing who we truly are, imperfections and all. They teach us that it's okay to be vulnerable, to express our emotions, to let our true selves shine through.
It makes you wonder, like, why do we as adults, why do we feel the need to hide those parts of ourselves? Is it fear of judgment? Is it a need to fit in?
It's likely a combination of factors, societal expectations, past experiences, even our own inner critic can play a role. But the beauty is that we can choose to challenge those limiting beliefs. We can learn from children and reclaim that freedom of self-expression.
It's like they're giving us permission to shed those masks and just step into our authentic selves.
Precisely. And that authenticity, that willingness to be real, it's incredibly powerful. It allows us to connect with others on a deeper level, to build genuine relationships, and to live a life that's true to who we are.
So how do we encourage that authenticity, both in ourselves and in our children?
One way is to create a safe and supportive environment where expressing emotions is welcomed and validated.
It makes sense,
Yeah.
Kids are so good at being authentic because they haven't learned all the rules and expectations that we as adults seem to pick up along the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how do we as parents create that kind of space for them? A space where kids feel feel safe to be themselves without judgment?
That's a great question, and it leads us to one of the most powerful and perhaps most challenging aspects of Buddhist philosophy, and that is unconditional love. Not just the love that we receive, but the love that we offer to others.
Okay, so we're going deep here. I'm intrigued, but also a little intimidated, to be honest.
Yeah.
Unconditional love, it seems like this lofty ideal that's hard to actually live out,
Yeah.
especially in the messy reality of parenting.
It's true. It's not always easy, but the beautiful thing is that children, they're these incredible teachers of unconditional love. They show us what it looks like in its purest form. Think about the way a child offers a hug without hesitation, or the way they forgive so easily after a disagreement.
You're right. It's like they don't hold grudges or keep score the way we adults sometimes do. They love freely and fully without any strings attached. And the source material, it draws this beautiful connection between this kind of love and the Buddhist concept of metta.
Yes, metta. It's often translated as loving kindness or compassion.
Yeah.
And it's about cultivating a genuine sense of care and goodwill towards all beings, and that includes ourselves.
So it's not just about being living towards others. It's about extending that same kindness and compassion to ourselves.
Exactly, and this is where many of us, we kind of stumble. We're so quick to judge ourselves, to focus on our flaws and shortcomings. But in Buddhist thought, this self-criticism, it's seen as a form of suffering. It prevents us from experiencing true peace and joy.
I'm starting to see how this all ties together. If we can learn to accept ourselves with all our imperfections, to offer ourselves that same unconditional love that children so freely give, then maybe we can start to break free from those patterns of self-judgment and criticism.
That's the heart of it. And as we cultivate this metta, this loving kindness towards ourselves, it naturally starts to overflow into our interactions with others. We become more patient, more understanding, more forgiving.
So children, they're not just mirroring our inner world. They're actually guiding us towards a more loving and compassionate way of being.
That's a beautiful way to put it. They're like these little beacons of light, reminding us of our own innate capacity for love and kindness.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. It's like I'm seeing my kids and myself in a whole new light. But I have to ask, how do we put all this into practice? It's one thing to talk about mindfulness and unconditional love, but it's another thing to actually live it out, especially in those challenging moments of parenthood.
You're right. It's an ongoing practice, but even small steps, they can make a big difference.
Yeah.
Start by simply noticing those moments when your child is offering you their pure, unfiltered love. Just let yourself receive it fully, and in those moments when you feel yourself getting frustrated or judgmental, try to pause, take a deep breath, and just ask yourself, what would love do right now?
What would love do? I love that. It's such a simple question, but so powerful. It's like a gentle reminder to kind of shift our perspective, and to approach those tough moments with more compassion and understanding.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to be perfect at this. There will be times when you slip up, when you react in ways you wish you hadn't, but that's okay. It's all part of the journey. The important thing is to keep practicing, keep learning, and keep growing alongside your children.
This deep dive has given me so much to think about. It's amazing how much wisdom we can glean from those little humans who often seem to be teaching us more than we're teaching them.
They truly are incredible guides if we're open to their lessons, and as we learn to see the world through their eyes, with more wonder, more presence, and more love, we might just discover that we're not so different from those joyful, authentic, unconditionally loving beings after all.
That's a beautiful thought to end on.
Yeah.
So to all you listeners out there, the next time you find yourself, caught up in the chaos of daily life, just take a moment to connect with the the children in your life. Let their wisdom guide you. Let their love inspire you, and let their laughter remind you of the simple joys of being alive. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep those aha moments coming.